Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and in today's video I'm going to continue with the Power Apps Hidden Gem series. But I was thinking that now there's been a big event, which is the Ignite, that has happened, and there's been so many great announcements that were made. So I just thought I'll take a pause on the Hidden Gem series and instead focus on the amazing new announcements that was made. So that's why just for this one over here, this specific video, I've actually changed the name and I'm actually calling it the Power Platform New Gems. And this video will focus only on the new features that was announced during the Ignite. So let's go ahead and switch over, and I'll kind of walk you through all these new announcements that was made, and I'll hit all the platforms which fall under the Power Platform over here. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so one of the first announcements I wanted to talk about was now we have a Fantastic Four. So one of the things you might ask is, okay, where did this whole Fantastic Four thing come from? So before I even jump into that, let me just say, so what do I mean by Fantastic Four? Let's actually take a recap of what we have so far, okay? Before we even dive into the new things, let's just do a recap because it helps to compare the past from the present. So what we already know so far is there are three major power platforms over here. There's the Power Apps. We know it was Power BI, and then we know it's Microsoft Flow. These are the three things that we already knew. So what changed? Well, a couple of things changed. One of them was Power Apps. It used to be one word. Power Apps was one word, and now if you see in the slide, it's actually been split up into Power Space Apps. So they're actually two letters instead of just one combined, which honestly makes just perfect sense. It avoids all confusions. It avoids all the squiggly lines when you're typing it in. It just makes perfect common sense to split it up into Power Apps. And the great thing is it maintains consistency because there's Power BI and there's Power Apps. Again, talking about consistency, the Microsoft Flow has now been changed into Power Automation, and that just makes things so much more easier, right? For a couple of reasons, which I'll be talking about in the next few slides. But simple thing is, it all now falls under the Power Platform. You now have three Power products over there, powerful products over there. So changing the name from Microsoft Flow to Power Automation just purely makes sense. And I'm really glad they went in that direction. And I'll talk more about that in the next few minutes. But now we have a new product. It's the Power Virtual Agents. Well, see if you notice that the image that came up in the slide over there, there's a few, we've always seen this one, the Power BI, Power Apps, and Automate, the icons, and then below it were the three different things over there. Now there is the fourth one, which is the Power Virtual Agents, and there's its icon and its logo over there. So that's why I call this as the Fantastic Four. I came up with this idea. Feel free to go ahead and use that. It just makes perfect sense, and I'm really excited about this. The four new products. I am happy about the name change for the Flow, and I'm also happy about the Power Virtual Agents. So now that you get the whole gist of what this Fantastic Four is, let's kind of dive into it a little bit more, into what were these new features, and what is it that we have to look forward to. All right. So first, let's start with Power Automate. Which is basically the Flow piece over there. Couple of things on the Power Flow, Power Automate piece is when you're referring to the Flow piece of it, you are still allowed to do that. So don't get confused that, oh, when I want to talk about Flow, what should I say? Should I say Power Automate or should I say Flow? And you're completely okay with using the Flow. It's just that when you talk about it, especially when you type about it, say that the Flow should be a lowercase f. So say, for example, I want to go to the user community and I want to say that, hey, my Flow has got this issues. Just type it in as my lowercase f, that's the small f, Flow, Flow has blah, 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 blah. So that's basically the exact terminology type of, usage that you have to do over there. So that's one big thing over there. But let's talk about why the whole concept of the name change. And it's actually very simple. And I like the way they've done this because there is just so much more to Flow than workflows. and I put in that lowercase flow just to kind of re-emphasize what I talked about, is because it is more than just workflows. There is now the data connectors that you've built, the data connections that you use directly in Flow, and you make API calls and everything. And now we've got the new RPA, which is the robotic process automation. So in a nutshell, I support the idea of changing it to Power Automation, just for the pure concept of there is more than workflows. And these three are the main big ones that I've hit over here, but I'm sure you guys will come up with a whole bunch more. Bottom line is it makes perfect sense to change that name, and I'm glad that did it sooner rather than later. In addition, now I want to kind of focus on the RPA, which is the robotic process automation. The name actually might sound a little confusing earlier, but I've kind of, now that I'm focusing on it, I'm kind of helping you understand the reason behind the naming process over there. Because I get it. When I first saw the name too, it's like robotic process automation. Man, this sounds way more than something that I can handle. The name is a little confusing. The name is very futuristic. Am I even prepared for that? And the answer is, all of it is yes, you are prepared for it. The name actually makes sense to it, and here are the reasons why. First, RPA stands for robotic process automation. Now, you don't need to go buy a robot for it. You don't need to go and buy any, or go and subscribe for anything other thing. It is all falling under the power automation piece over there. But now, as they've described it, that this is a new intuitive robotic process automation that works for you. They've introduced the whole concept of user interface flows, which is currently in preview, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And that's why the RPA, which is in Power Automate, helps with all of that. And it makes it so much more easier, because when I first saw this, and I first saw that the first concept of how to use it, it immediately took me back to how I was able to record macros in Excel, right? Because I was able to start the recording, it's picking up, recording everything that I've clicked, switching them into the worksheets in an Excel workbook, all of it recorded. I immediately kind of remembered about that, and to the reason I want to kind of share my thought process with you is because it is literally that simple, and it's in preview. So when you're a tenant or when you go access to it, you'll play around with it. Also see some of the examples that will be coming out soon. You will see that it is basically that simple, and that's why I wanted to emphasize on the description over there, is that it records actions such as mouse clicks to make intelligent workflows. It is literally that simple. But there was another key thing over there that they mentioned as to one of the big influences of this process, is it can be used for applications or certain functionalities in applications that do not, and I want to emphasize, it does not have any APIs or connectors. Now just think about that for a minute. Before, if you had homegrown applications in your company, or if you did have any third-party applications that basically did not have any connectors, no APIs whatsoever, this is the way now you can still automate the process, because now you've had the robotic process automation to record your steps. Simple things as, hey, open up that application, the same old application that doesn't have any third-party, no APIs or connectors. You now open it up, do all the clicking, typing, everything that you need, and then after that, save it so that the steps are automatically done in the future for the end user. You've completely now solved the problem of not having APIs, and yet you've been able to automate the process in a robotic fashion over there. So I just want to kind of elaborate on the fact that don't get a little too concerned about these big words of robotic process automation. It actually is very simple, it's very intuitive, and everyday users like you and I can go ahead and use it over there, such as doing the recording, and more importantly, it can be used for any of the applications and APIs. For applications that do not have connectors or do not have APIs over there. And we'll talk a little bit more on the whole UI flows piece over there. But I kind of want to make sure that you understand this whole piece. Don't get concerned, don't get alarmed. It's actually very, very user-friendly. And some of the demos that they've already showed in Ignite was fantastic. How they were able to open up applications, how they were able to go ahead and do that. And I've put all the links down here. Bottom line is, this got me excited. I am looking forward to using this. And start involving in automation processes for any of these applications that do not have these connectors and things like that. All right, makes sense? All right, let's move along. So we talked about RPAs. Now let's focus a little bit on the type of RPAs that was announced over there. So there was actually two types of RPAs, and again, it just makes perfect sense what they announced over there. And the whole concept of attended versus unattended RPAs over there. So attended is actually a good way, something probably I will start with, is because I can go ahead and now start the recording process of being somewhere where I am attending the automation process. And it helps, right? Because if it's an attended automation process, then I don't have to make the process completely foolproof or seamless, because I will be there to capture things such as errors, and then go ahead and capture loggings. So the entire automation process, doesn't have to be fully automated, because there will be the human touch involved in that automation. That's why it's called as attended automation. But they've also gone a step further and made the unattended automation process available as well. And again, that's great, because I think that once people, the power users, the power addicts, all of people like you and I, we start playing with the attended, we get really comfortable with it, and says, hey, I want to take this to the next level, and I'm going to start making the unattended one. Now, unattended will have to be like a foolproof power automation process, where you will have to factor in, hey, if there is an error, how do I get around the error? What's the error handling process over there? Kind of make all your conditions foolproof. And one of the things that was recommended was that the unattended automation integrates best with a schedule or an automated flow. And if you notice that those two are not new, they've already been there. So they've just, once again, taken the scheduled and automated flow processes and taken it to the next level by also providing the unattended robotic process automation, or RPA. So I'm kind of understanding that I think by now you should get a good idea of what this RPA is, what are the functionalities for it, what are the options for it. So now that you're understanding it, and also if you've had a chance to look at some of the Ignite videos, it's getting to be a little bit more comfortable. So I personally feel that this is a great thing to look forward to, and I myself will probably start playing with it. My route will be play with the attended, start going into the unattended, and work with the scheduled flows and automated flows process over there. So now that we've looked at the RPA, let's kind of deep dive a little bit into that and look at the UI flow piece. So what is UI flow and how it works? We've kind of already looked at what it is, but let's spend a little bit more time on UI flow over there. So even in the UI flow piece, there's only two sections to it, and the two other topics is it could be a desktop application in Windows, and then it could also be a website application for Windows. So there's two kind of ways to work with it. A desktop based with the recorder and everything, or it could also be completely a web application based over there. It also works with desktop applications, which means that when you want to do the recording, it will have the functionality to open up an application which is on your desktop. It also has the functionality to work with web-based applications over there. Now, with your desktop applications, there's a little bit of important things that you need to notice, that it is only compatible with Windows 10 and with server either 2016 or 2019, but the key thing is the operating system has to be 64-bit. So they've gone ahead and actually set the foundations that this is how it needs to be done. And it all makes sense, because when you're going to start working with the UI integration piece over there for the UI flows, whatever is the base platform that the UI needs, it has to have this operating system to make it easier for you. Because if you've got some older operating systems, which you really shouldn't, because they've already passed, like Windows 7 has already passed through its end of the life and its end of service, so you really shouldn't be using that. But just to be on the safe side, they're saying that it has to be Windows 10 because these are the basic requirements for that. And literally, they're just saving you all the heartache and effort and the worries to try to do something in an old OS and it just doesn't work, saving you all the trouble for that. In the next thing, for the web applications, websites and the applications, it is compatible to work with websites as well, but they're kind of calling out these two browser types that you need. You need Microsoft Edge and you need Google Chrome. It'll only work with either one of those, and I'm perfectly fine with it. For those people who use Firefox, this might be a good time to switch over to either one of those, because if you're interested in using the UI flows purely for websites and web-based applications, then these are the only two browsers they're going to support, and they've called this out upfront to let you know that, hey, this is what it's going to work. So if you're a Firefox user, go ahead and switch over to that, but they're calling this out and making it very clear ahead of time. So I myself want to call this out to you guys as well. All right, so just as a continuation, the desktop UI flows. And I want to pause over here because I want to kind of talk a little bit more into what it actually uses. And so the UI, the UI flows basically uses something called as UI automation framework. And the UI automation framework supports the Win32 and the WPF applications. Now, I want to call this out right now because even though it's too geeky and too, maybe developer type of thing, so you don't want to deep dive too much. And okay, do I need to learn that? No, you do not need to learn that. But I do want to call this out because for two things. One of the things is because of the things such as the WPF application, which I'll talk in a second, is not something new. They've had this out for a while, and it has been tried and tested, and they're just implementing that. So it's a really good, already tried and tested product that they're using, and they're taking it to the next level. The other thing about the UI flows is the web UI flows is that they're using, which was an open source framework called as Selenium. And Selenium was the way to go ahead and record and automate web applications. It has been a very popular product in the industry, and so now as Microsoft does it, is they took something which is already good and great, and they've just taken it to a whole new level that makes it fantastic and better. So again, thumbs up to the guys to recognize something and then taking it up to the next level. So I'm excited about that. But I just want to touch base on that WPF that I talked about. In the links below, I actually provided the links to the Microsoft UI automation framework, and that WPF, which is Windows Presentation Foundation, it's been there since March of 2017. So it's a tried and tested method, and they're going to go ahead and use it. So all this time now, I basically touched on the flow or the power automation piece, kind of give you a little bit of a taste of what are the new things that are coming out over there, and it's really neat, something that I'm looking forward to playing with, to really just help in the whole robotic process automation. Again, in the end, don't let that term if too concern you at all. It is simple, it is easy, it is intuitive, and it's very easy for you to start using it and adapting it. No heavy customizations or anything needed. It's just there, available for you to start playing with, and it's going to come out very soon. All right, so let's switch gears now and let's talk about Power Apps. So one thing I'm going to call it again, it used to be one word, Power Apps. Now they split it into two words. Makes perfect sense why they've done that, but I just want to call that out. All right. Now, a couple of things in Power Apps. They've gone ahead and made the ability to leverage CDS views, which is fantastic. Think of it as SharePoint, right? In SharePoint, you're able to make SharePoint lists, and then for each of the lists, you're able to make your own views. This is the exact same thing. In fact, this is already available right now. So if you log into your Power Apps, and if you go and create any of the CDS entities, call that connection into your Power Apps, you will see this demonstration that I've shown you right now over here. You will be able to go add, create a gallery, connect a power data source, which is a CDS, and then in your views over there, you'll be able to go and capture the views as well. This is actually available right now, but it really helps to already do a lot of the filtering and sorting ahead of time directly in the views, so you don't have to do that work in Power Apps, which makes it a little bit easier for you to build that app faster. All right, so this was on the CDS side for filtering and viewing. I want to jump a little bit to the SharePoint document libraries. I know that this was announced before as well, so they've kind of gone ahead and said that, but they've also shown some new things. You will be very soon able to use Power Apps to build customized forms for document libraries. But the other thing they showed over here, which I don't know if you caught that, was you can take the existing document libraries and also add some filters as to show and hide columns directly over here using the Power Apps, which is the customized form over here. This is something that SharePoint people will get excited to use about, because that's something that we've been waiting for a while, right? Because all the great features were there for the lists, but this will be directly included now into document libraries, not just to create customized forms, but also to be able to view any of the existing files that you have in your document library. You can view them based on however columns that you want to see. Go ahead and add the drop downs to filter it and things like that. Great new functionality that is coming up over there. Tight integration between SharePoint and Power Apps over there. So in continuation, the Power Apps has done great integration both with SharePoint, integration with Teams. So in this case, Now with the Teams, if you notice on the top right over there, that return selector tool too, Power Apps will be able to go ahead and integrate directly into that. So you're able to now take your Power App and in Teams go ahead and add directly the tab on the top right to go and use the Power Apps. The other way you can do that is now, if you go into Power Apps, you can see that button on the top right, which is the Add to Teams. Go ahead and export that. Now the export, which is the zipped file, it is directly a zipped file for a Teams app. So don't just think of it as, oh, it's just another zip file. That zip file is customized as a Teams app. And then you can go into Teams and then you can import this Teams app and directly add to it. So there's two ways now you can go ahead and integrate into your Power Apps into Teams. You can just go into Teams and do the integration over there as a tab, or you can come into Power Apps, export that as a Teams app with that zipped file, and then go ahead and import that into the Power App site. Two ways to do that, so the options are yours over there. All right, so let's switch gears now into some of the monitoring and the administration side things that are coming up. The administration side for the test mode is going to be fantastic. If you look at the top left side where there's the advanced tools over there, they have the monitoring, but they also have the test mode available in the Power Apps over there. So you'll now be able to record all your things such as the clicks, actions, and able to replay them to see how was the flow of the apps. If you started getting updates that, hey, my app is failing, you can start recording as to what are the clicks or the actions that are causing this app to fail. And then based on those recordings, you'll be able to troubleshoot a little bit more faster, a little bit more better based on that. So the other thing is that you can also automate the test passing using the Power Automate over there. So you can leverage even that side. The other thing is, this is basically the Power Apps Monitor. It shows you that how, based on all the clicks, it is recording a history of those clicks and is providing that to you. So you can see a couple of things. You can see where the data source of that data is coming from. You can see the timestamps. You can even see which control was used over there and the properties of that control. So if you had a button, at what point in that button did it work? Did it break? Did it break based on the on select? If it was a timer, was it on the timer end? It really helps you with all of that. It also helps you with the duration time. It helps you with the response size. This monitoring tool is really going to take your troubleshooting to a whole different level. And I, for one, I'm very excited to start using that over there. All right, so we looked at the troubleshooting side. Let's look at the administration piece. So on the administration piece over here, they've gone ahead and now given you a more analytics ability for the SharePoint admin. Now you'll be able to go and see for each of your apps over there. You can see the app usage. You can see the unique users over there, how many times the app was launched. And then also the locations as to the launching and the trend and all of that information. If you look at the right side over there, what were the device types that were being used over there? What was the version of the app in that device types over there? And it also has, it gives you a geolocation of where all the apps were used. So the admin center and the out-of-the-box analytics is actually pretty cool, which will really help for even specifically those enterprise level or the business level type of apps that you've already deployed. This will really help to understand the usage of that apps. Now, if you want to take your granular view of the DLP to a whole granular level, you can start leveraging PowerShell over there. But the one thing which really caught my attention is that it will even through PowerShell, not only can you see it, but it gives you the ability to go ahead and block specific connectors even in the default environment. Let me say that again. It allows you to block specific connectors even in the default environment, because you know that many a times the recommendation was, you've gone into Power Apps, you want to start building more apps, CDS connectors and things like that, create a new environment and start working over there. Now they've allowed you to do all the blocking and of all the connectors even in the default environment. So for those of you who've been using Power Apps for a while now, you kind of understand the importance of how much this is really going to help. And if you look at this PowerShell script over there, it's literally just one line. I mean, you don't have to build a full module or an object or any PowerShell, function and then call that function. It's literally just a one-line code over there. It's that simple. So again, huge new feature coming out, helps administration and security to a whole different level. And remember, it even works on the default environment side. So all in all, these were some of the big ones that they announced. In addition, these were also the other features that they've announced over there, some of which were already available because we've already been talking about the portals and when they were in the preview mode. But these are all going to be GA or generally available. In addition, there was the Azure Active Directory or AAD authentication for SQL. That was another new feature that came out. It was a heavily required, so it's made available for that as well. So all in all, the Power App side has got some great new features announced, and I, for one, am really looking forward to it, especially the admin side over there. All right, so let's switch gears now and talk a little bit about Power BI. So in Power BI, there was a few announcements that really caught my attention, and I want to share that with you guys. One of them was the really good integration of sensitivity labels. Now, I'll touch a little bit on sensitivity labels, but I want to say that for this announcement, it is a enterprise information management, and now you can classify and add these sensitivity labels to both your data and to the data that has been exported. So let me show you what that means. Now, here is a concept where we are going ahead and adding that sensitivity label to an existing data connection over there. So you've seen the reports. I've gone ahead and added the sensitivity label, and I can mark it as which are the labels that you've created. So that's one way. It's in the report. And then the other one is I've already got the report built over here. I'm going to go ahead and just export the data of that report. See how that visualize was good. I'm going to export it. Yeah, Excel looks good, so I'll go ahead and export that as an Excel. But I want to keep showing watch, because now when he's going to open the Excel spreadsheet, see on the top left over there, it tells me that this is also highly confidential. So the key thing that I want to point out is that sensitivity label, not only does it just apply to the Power BI side, but it is carried over even when the data is exported. So the sensitivity label is deeply integrated to the data itself, not just to the Power BI. Now, for all the Office 365 users, you are aware of in the security and compliance section that the sensitivity labels were there. And these are the exact same sensitivity labels. The sensitivity labels that you have in Office 365, you're able to go ahead and apply that on the Power BI too. So what I like about this piece is that the security and compliance carries over from Office 365 to the Power Platform as well, and in this case in the Power BI side over there. So the neat thing about that is that on the Office 365 side, you go ahead and create those sensitivity labels, you go ahead and create how it is to be used, and then you can just carry that. So it's a single change made on Office 365 side, the creation of the sensitivity label over there, and then it carries over even to the Power BI side. It makes administration and it makes the usage so much more easier over there. And then the other example I wanted to show you is that in the sensitivity label side, if you're an authorized user and say you open up that spreadsheet, it just tells you that, hey, the sensitivity for this one is highly confidential, but you can still go about doing your work. If you are not an authorized user, you're an unauthorized user, then it just basically comes up blank. It doesn't show you the data, and it says, hey, you're not authorized, but you can always log in as somebody else, whoever that somebody else is, and then be the sensitivity user for that. So the security side using sensitivity label was a big deal over here and the big announcement. The other thing is the embedded paginated reports or paginated reports. These were the 4 different announcements that are made along with it. The row level security URL parameters, and then allowing the Power BI professionals to distribute the reports. Great functions which are available. Same thing on automation of tasks and operations. Great functions for adding more security, helping to filter it using URL-based parameters, and then automating the tasks. Great functionalities, all based on the Power BI's embedded report functionality. All right, so over here in the last piece of the Power BI that I want to talk about is faster use of interactive data on large data sets. I do want to call it out that this large models is only available in the Power BI Premium. But take a look at that. I mean, it is now going to allow you to have 40 times larger data models, which will be immediately calculated by Power BI. I mean, before the limit was 10 gigs, but now it's bumped up 40 times, just 400 gigs. So it is able to go ahead and take the data, digest it, and go ahead and do all the processing based on your reports, which is done over there. Huge jump in the right direction. Because not only does it performance, but also a much increase in the data sets available over there. So in the end, once again, this was part of my Power Apps Hidden Gem series. I kind of switched it up a little bit. I went ahead and did the Power Platform New Gems. This was just a switch for this one. I'm already started building the 5th video for that, and I'll go back to the previous routine of talking about some of the hidden gems over there. But for here, just because it was Ignite, I took a break and showed about these great things on that. I'll have some important links, so you can always go and reference basically the information that I provided over here. And as always, if you like these videos, go ahead and like them, and definitely subscribe. Subscribe makes it easier for you guys, so that when I'm posting these new videos, you get an automated alert about that. So hope this information was available. I was excited about all the features I've introduced in Ignite. I'm looking forward to using them, and I hope you do the same.